Okay, welcome to part 3. This is the final part of this adventure that we went on. So let's just get right into it where we left off in part 2. So on March 20th, my brother and I, we walked to Prince Rupert Ferry Terminal and we waited in the waiting room to get on the ferry. The night in Prince Rupert that I called the BC Ferries to check with them that the ferry was still running, the person I talked to, they said that on that ferry, all the food services were being suspended and would not be running during that route. So while the route was still going, you couldn't buy food on the ferry unless it was vending machine food. So my brother and I, we bought a whole bunch of snacks, granola bars and bread and jam and stuff like that to make sandwiches for that 24-hour sailing, which we weren't going to be able to buy any food from. The ferry left at 11 and would get to Port Hardy by 9 a.m. the next day. But it was quite apparent that a lot of people didn't hear that info because there are constant announcements at the ferry terminal telling you that this ferry didn't serve food, and as soon as that announcement ended, there'd be like 5 people like calling a taxi, like desperately like, come on, please pick me up, I need to get some food. And like so many groups of people got a taxi from the ferry terminal back into town to pick up some food and then came back to the ferry terminal. It was pretty funny. It was about maybe like 5 or 6 groups of people did that. So just like with the other ferry, on this one we also got a cabin too. Is it at 4?
No, it's at 0.
No, I'm saying the other thing.
No, it's at 0.
Goodness sake, you're so helpful. No, I'm just trying to make sure the settings are good. This one being an overnight one, it's kind of more important to have a cabin, I guess, unless you want to just sit in a chair and sleep. So we stayed in a cabin, which was basically the exact same as the one we had stayed in on the way over to Prince Rupert. This ferry route was absolutely amazing. The sights that you could see were just so incredible. There was tons of snowy mountains and just lovely scenery. It was just so amazing. That is one part of the trip that I would happily do again because I enjoyed it so much. Yeah, buddy. Luckily, it was also a really nice sunny day too, so we spent a lot of time up on the deck, you know, just walking around, enjoying the views. We had a conversation with one of the crew members, and he was talking about how empty the ship was. He said it was like a ghost ship, and he said that there was only about 18 passengers on board. And that was funny because this ferry had more people on it than the first ferry we took over to Prince Rupert. This one was pretty much the same as well. You know, you could walk around the ship and hardly see anybody. I'm not somebody who's a big fan of big crowds, so you know, I like it when it's pretty empty. I like things when they're empty, so I really enjoyed this sailing. So my brother and I, we quickly went to try to find a vending machine so we could buy some of the snacks from it because we knew most people were going to be buying stuff from it as well. It turns out that we were looking around and they only really had one vending machine there, and basically throughout the voyage that got more and more cleaned out. Even the stuff that doesn't even sell particularly well, like baked chips and overpriced trail mix, like even those were being bought. Like people were buying whatever they could because, you know, they knew that was like the only place to buy food. So then we had dinner on one of the outer decks. It was mostly like a vending machine dinner because it was just like bags of chips and granola bars, so it was kind of funny. There we go. So we got our really lovely nutritious dinner here.
Basically just a vending machine dinner.
Look at that. That looks so nice. Nobody else is here. So we had a nice dinner, about $50 worth of vending machine snacks. So as it got later on in the evening, we just hung out in our cabin a bit more. We were kind of a bit bored, so we decided to play hide and go seek in our cabin too. Cable's playing reruns, so yeah, we gotta entertain ourselves. Hide and go seek challenge.
Go.
Okay.
Count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh man, that was loud. Okay, where did he go? Definitely didn't see that. NYPD, open up.
Can't find me if the door's locked.
Okay, perfect.
I think it's pronounced que pasa.
Okay, so I'm gonna go hide.
1, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ready or not, here I come. Where did that big child go? Whoops. Where's that nose? Oh, I found you.
Now I gotta go. Now I gotta go wash my hands. Dang it. Is that my bag or yours?
No, it's mine.
So yeah, it was nice to have the cabin just as a place to kind of chill out and relax. You know, it's a little bit more private, even though we didn't really need that because of how empty the ship was. Along the way, we stopped in Klemtu. I'm not really sure if I'm saying that right, as with a lot of the names of the places we went to. I'm sorry if I said them wrong. We actually stopped there for quite a while, like over an hour. How long we've been on the ferry for?
10 hours. And counting.
And counting.
Yeah.
Another 12 hours to go.
Pretty much.
So that was around 7:50. So then a few hours after that, we decided to try and get some rest. So sleeping on that ferry was actually quite easy because it's a very calm route, so it doesn't rock that much. So the next day, on March 21st, we arrived in Port Hardy and we got a taxi to take us to our accommodation. But there was one slight problem. Yeah, so we got to our accommodation in Port Hardy, but we're quite early. It is just like 9:25 and we get to check in at 3 o'clock. So we got like a long time to just hang around Port Hardy. So we're gonna be doing Port Hardy stuff. And since we picked a motel pretty close to the airport, we were pretty far away from everything too. We weren't close to any stores or anything we could really do. So we were kind of like, what do we do? So we decided to go up to the airport to see where we would be leaving from in a couple days, just so we knew the right way to go. So we're just gonna go over there to the airport and see what there is to do. We found another Christmas tree farm. Aren't you happy about that?
It's not a Christmas tree farm.
Yeah, it is. It's totally a Christmas tree farm. Look at all those little trees. There's tons of them. The good thing about this one though is like they're not in a fence. They're not like Christmas trees in jail like the other one.
No.
They were like, remember the other?
That wasn't a Christmas tree farm.
That was a Christmas tree farm. It definitely was. And then a little bit later, we found a beach. So we spent a little bit of time there, filming some birds, just chilling out at the beach. They were so noisy, those birds. They were just chirping up a storm. Crazy birds. I don't really know what they are, maybe sandpipers? I'm not sure, that's just off the top of my head. So then since everything was so far away, we called another taxi to come pick us up and take us into town so we could go and get some groceries. Since we had so much extra time, we just sat in the mall for like a couple hours and like watched Netflix using the mall's Wi-Fi. That was kind of strange because you were allowed in malls, but you weren't really supposed to loiter, but there were still benches that you could sit at. So we kind of just sat at a bench and kind of, nobody told us to leave, so we were lucky with that because like we wouldn't have anywhere to go. Like everywhere else was closed. Like we were gonna try to see if we could like go to a museum or something like that, but just everything was getting shut down at this point, even more than at Prince Rupert. Like everything was getting closed down. This was peak panic buying time when everybody was just loading up on toilet paper, just buying like as much as they could. So then from the grocery store, we got yet another taxi back to our accommodation where we were before. This time it was open, so we were able to check in. But during our taxi ride back, the taxi owner had said that they had gone to the airport to pick up people, but apparently that flight had been canceled, so there was nobody to pick up. So she told us to like check and make sure that our flight was still running. So we were pretty nervous at that point because we're like, oh no, are we gonna get stuck in Port Hardy now? Like, are we not gonna be able to fly home? So as soon as we got into our room, I called up the airline and was like, hey, is this flight still running? Like, are we gonna get stuck in Port Hardy? Because there's nothing to do here and I don't wanna get stuck in Port Hardy. But they were like, no, it's okay. It is running for sure. So we were like, phew. Throughout this trip, there was a lot of ups and downs of like, is this gonna get canceled? Are we still gonna go on that? Are we gonna be able to get home? So what are we doing now?
Sushi.
Sushi time. Look at that. I've got some nice sushi because we did so much walking today, didn't we?
Yeah.
The good thing about the motel we were staying at is they had a really nice sushi restaurant. So we got sushi for dinner that night. Our taxi driver also told us that there's this really nice trail you can hike that was called Fort Rupert Trail. So the next day we decided to go and hike that because we had nothing else to do. And this was the longest hike we did out of all of the hikes on this trip. It was 2 kilometers from our accommodation to the trail. Then the trail was 4 kilometers each way. We went there and back. And then we walked back from the trail to our accommodation, which was another 2K. So we walked 12K just from that. What do you think about these trails?
Cool.
Cool. We heard a creek going up that way, so yeah, hopefully we're gonna be all right. I think it was just a bird, but we're gonna see. We should be fine, right? Imagine being here and it's just like crash right in front of you. It absolutely obliterated these boards. You can tell this is a fallen tree because of the way it is. It was a really nice walk as well. I know I've said that about everything. Everything was really nice, but we really did enjoy the hikes we were on. Those are definitely highlights of the trip. That was the first day on this trip that it wasn't completely sunny. So we were super lucky weather-wise. If we had gone on the trip this March, it would have been rainy for like a lot of the trip because we had quite a big rainy spell, and that would have been during the time that we would have been on that long ferry. And that wouldn't have been nearly as fun because we wouldn't have spent so much time up on the decks if it was pouring down with rain. So then for the rest of the evening, we just sat in our motel room and just kind of chilled out because we were pretty sore from walking so much. And then we got sushi again, you know, we got sushi every night. So then on March 23rd at 11 a.m. we flew back to YVR. So that was it, our trip was over, we were finished. We made it back home, which was really good. We didn't get stuck in Prince Rupert, we didn't get stuck in Port Hardy or Haida Gwaii. So it was kind of bittersweet. We were happy to be back, but also kind of disappointed that we weren't able to finish the whole trip. So I've actually been enjoying making these videos because it's basically been a year since I actually went on that original trip, and it's been kind of nice to relive all those memories. So if you did enjoy this video, please give it a like and please subscribe. And if for some strange reason you haven't watched part 1 or part 2, go check those out too because there's some fun stuff we got up to and you want to hear how the story begins, don't you?